Well, for the first time since 2008, Cross River State is projected to regain oil-producing status. Well, joining us now is John Lebo, his former Speaker, Cross River State House of Assembly. Thank you very much for joining us on Newsnight.
Yeah, thank you. Good evening.
What exactly do we need to know about this latest development? Because the governor of Akwa Ibom State is already saying, look, no amount of propaganda, can overturn what he says the Supreme Court has ruled on twice, as a matter of fact, that the Akwa Ibom has total, full, 100% rights or ownership over this disputed 76 oil wells.
Okay, thank you. The Cross River State position is drawn from two lines of argument. First, Cross River State is not opposed to the judgment of the International Court of Justice, sitting Bakassi. We're not asking for an appeal. Cross River State is not opposed to the judgment of the Supreme Court relating to the 76 oil wells. Since 2008, it's been taken from us, and we don't have it, and they are paying Akwa Ibom. We are not contesting that judgment for now until we go back to the court and ask for that amendment. Cross River State position is coming from the difference between water body, interpretation of water body, and the continental shelf geology. The Supreme Court judgment related to the interpretation of water body. Water body means that you're saying that we do not have a seawater territory. That is the body of water.
Yes.
And you say the estuary. Yes, the estuary has been wiped out. We know geologically that is impossible, but let's agree with the judgment of the Supreme Court. But in respect of the ownership of oil well, it is not determined by the ownership of a seawater territory. Because Imo State does not have a seawater territory, Abia doesn't have, Imo does not have, Edo does not have. Or the other argument, there are states that are littoral states, but they don't have oil wells. Ondo State has a littoral corridor, but they don't have oil wells. So geology, scientific evidence is adduced for the purpose of ownership of oil wells. So Cross River State did a very detailed, extensive report, covering the whole of the Niger Delta Basin, covering the whole of the Cross River Basin. Know that in terms of geological configuration, Nigeria has about 8 estuaries. The Cross River estuary is the first estuary funded by the Cross River Basin. And within that basin, we found, first of all, about 600 coordinates of oil wells. When we brought it to the table, we sent that report to the president, and we reminded the president that there are two things the president needs to do. Number one, there's a body of water that Nigeria has not claimed from the ICJ judgment because the National Boundary Commission has not demarcated the boundary. And we asked the president to look at the Navy hydrographic report and claim that body of water. This committee has done the same. Navy has claimed that body of water. 7,800 hectares of maritime water. It has nothing to do with oil wells. Cross River will not benefit from it. But for the purpose of our state and national security and piracy activity, we needed to achieve that. So today, the Nigerian Navy, from the estuary that they said has been wiped out, is collecting pilotage levy, towage levy, environmental pollution levy based on the MAPO, Maritime Pollution Convention of the United Nations. So that is happening. So if you say the estuary does not exist by judgment, estuary exists by natural flow of water and geology. And Nigeria is benefiting from it. As of today, Nigeria has gotten up to $11 million from those fees, from that same estuary that doesn't exist. Not for the oil wells. There's usually, you cannot determine the ownership of oil well because of the surface maritime water. To determine the ownership of oil well, you have to go through what is called the continental shelf geology. Continental shelf geology simply means that what is under the water is determined by an elongation, prolongation of the seabed materials. And you can only determine that through scientific seismic data analysis, which Cross River State commissioned. We got that evidence and we sent it to the agency. The agency came and confirmed 239 wells.
Which agency now?
That's the interagency committee, made up of RMAFC. And they came to Cross River State with the Surveyor General of Akwa Ibom State, spent 7 days in Cross River, and they confirmed 239 wells. It was sent to both states to plot. Now, we on our own plotting felt like, okay, remove the 76 oil wells of the Supreme Court, so that we won't have issues with the Supreme Court judgments. Okay? And then they came back and said, no, that even with they said you are not a littoral state. Any oil well located on the littoral corridor will go to Akwa Ibom. We disagree, but we have no option to agree. So at the end of the day,
came to this
119. So from our evidence, Akwa Ibom benefited from 119 new oil wells. Akwa Ibom argument about the Supreme Court judgment is that they have the impression that because the Supreme Court pronounced that Cross River State is not a littoral state, no littoral state should have an oil well.
But it does reinforce the argument of if the black gold is a blessing or a curse to this country. Because when we have new oil fields discovered like this, we have all manner of controversies that follow it. It does look like the dust is not settled and we're about to see fresh tensions between Cross River, Akwa Ibom, and neighboring states. How do we avert that, despite, straddle states' boundaries applied to this report by RMAFC and the interagency?
Now, which is why Cross River State petition, we did not trust any of the interagency, any of the agencies of the federal
government agency?
Yes, we did not. I'll say so with due respect. That's because in 2024, after the Navy Hydrographic Survey report came out, they found that Cross River State has 67 oil wells. We submitted that report to the chairman of Revenue Mobilization, MB Shehu, and that report was killed. The report was never sent to the president. That report also found out that Akwa Ibom also earned 18 oil wells from that exercise. That report never came up. That's why the governor, His Excellency Prince Batius, has to come up with a case management strategy and say, look, we'll send our petition to the president. First, our priority was not oil wells. Let's protect our maritime boundaries so that the Nigerian Navy and all our deep sea port activities can pull through. That is why the president approved the Calabar deep sea port. You cannot approve a deep sea port in a landlocked state because of the Navy Hydrographic report, which shows that Nigeria still retains that water body. Now, for Cross River and Akwa Ibom, this matter is between Revenue Mobilization and the interagency because they will play politics with it. It is now left for that report to go to the president. And then we are not asking for a political solution. We have provided a scientific solution. We are not asking for favor. We are not asking for oil wells donation from anybody. We have said if we took 239 oil wells and they took 119 away from us, we should be the one crying. But we know that we have a deficiency with respect to the judgment on 76 oil wells and the issue of the onshore dichotomy. So when Akwa Ibom raised the issue of Supreme Court judgment, it's very funny to us because, yes, they are brothers. We acknowledge the fact that judgment has put Cross River State back. That's why we didn't earn anything in 16 years. But we have found that the Cross River Basin has enough reservoir and seabed contractions that makes it possible for you to have wells. Let me tell you something. You do not need you do not need to be a littoral state to have oil wells. You do not need to have an OML because an OML is just a geological architecture. All that you need is to have surface coordinate. Let me finally tell you, if the scenario is simple, if I have water in my compound, my neighbor cannot come into my compound because I'm the owner of the territory. But you can't stop your neighbor from drilling his own borehole from that same reservoir far away from your house.
Okay, so that's what you're trying to do now.
Yes.
Thank you very much, John Gore Lebo, former Speaker, Cross River State, and also a lawyer. Hopefully, these brothers will be able to resolve their issues eventually.